All right. So for our last three presentations, we will have Immense, Roman Aerospace, and Villanova, and we're going to kick off with Immense.
Fantastic. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for being here. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Robin North. I'm co-founder, chief exec of Immense, recovering academic engineer. So Immense is a technology platform for simulating mobility in cities. And what we have set that up to do is to help us make decisions, to help us confront some of the difficult trade-offs that we need to make between delivering accessible, effective transportation systems, delivering environmental efficiency, and doing that quickly, so making important changes fast. So a lot of this you'll hear in various different forms over the next couple of days, and I'm sure you've heard many, many times over. But the disruptions that we're seeing in the mobility systems are giving us new opportunities. They're giving us a fantastic possibility of a better transport system. And I'm sure that's what a lot of us are here motivated by. But very often the barrier to getting things to happen is the speed with which we can make a confident decision about that future, about that deployment. We have lots of questions. We're trying to compare lots of different alternatives, and it takes too long and it costs too much. And what we often do is we phone a friend. So whether we're trying to look at the billions of dollars to implement a new infrastructure system or the deployment of a new mobility service, we very often will look to a new data provider. We'll look to new software. We'll probably hire a consultancy supply chain. We'll take quite a while to do it. We'll ask a question, we'll get a presentation and a PowerPoint, and we'll realize that we asked the wrong question. We need to do it again. And one of the big challenges in here is actually the reusability of those scenarios, those assets. So simulation tools are an embedded important part of this in terms of asking questions about the future, about systems that we don't have yet, how we can deploy them well, operate them efficiently, make money, deliver great services. But you need to have those tools available, you need to have them accessible, you need to have them being used and in the big decisions, but also in the smaller day-to-day decisions. So that's what we've built. We've built a simulation platform to enable us to embed these very powerful tools in a much wider range of decisions and decision types. We've leveraged a lot of new data. There are some great data systems now available that we can use. We can deploy it anywhere around the world. We can use cloud compute, we can do all sorts of things there, but really making it so that the insights that come from doing this about the A's and the B's and the C's, do this, do that, do something else, are accessible, available on your iPad, so you can make that decision quickly and confidently. Okay, what it's done to the value chains is really interesting and quite exciting from a business point of view. So it's meant that we can go from something which is quite protracted, quite slow, you're buying elements from different parts of a supply chain, to being able to compress that into a subscription-based product that you can deploy in market very rapidly and transfer between different places. So that reduces the time and the cost per question and enables us to do things like deploying really detailed agent-based models of quite sophisticated simulations, days in the life of your place under different circumstances, powering it with great data, and then being able to have those focused applications that deploy for an individual use case. We've been able to deploy this quite widely in market. So we've developed tools that support fleet managers. We've developed the products with those companies, those organizations that are promoting new services, trying them out. Being able to deploy it now at scale in London and other cities, looking at roadworks, so looking at disruptions on the network and being able to assess the impact of closing different streets or of managing those works differently. And then the regional planning type decisions of where do you put infrastructure, where do you put housing developments. We have these worlds of individual agents, people moving around and playing through a day in the life under different circumstances. There's a couple of us here today, and through CoMotion, what we're looking to do is build the partnerships to roll this through into North America. We've proven a lot of it in Europe, in the UK. Really excited to see what we can do. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Sometimes the challenge is knowing what question to ask. We've got a lot of data. How do you support cities or other data providers with that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So very often people have got ideas that there's lots of people who've got an idea about something they want to try. We've been able to help people shape workflows that take the baseline and then test systematically alternatives through it. So we can support people in doing that. We work with the consultancy supply chains. We work with the in-house experts at the organizations. Very often the challenge isn't having somebody who knows the question, it's then being able to deploy it cost effectively to address the problem that they need to solve.
Robin, quick question for you, or maybe not quick. I mean, the issue always about simulation is scale, right? And your revenue model behind it. So how do you get into your customers, and who are your customers, and how do you make money?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we've been very fortunate actually in being able to build up a customer base on both the public sector side and the private sector side. So quite often the first deployment is showing somebody how to do it, how it works, what you can do with the simulation tools. The core revenue model for us is a subscription access to the platform, but very often, at least initially, it's complemented by professional services to help people shape the right questions, get meaningful answers from the tools. Increasingly, what we're seeing with the public authorities and others is that there's the platform that we've built underneath it adds the most value when it's embedded. So there's often, with the deployment we're doing with Transport for London at the moment, there's an installation phase to configure the platform to fit within their data system, and then being able to monetize that as a recurrent subscription revenue for use of the system.
What happens if you're wrong? What happens if the simulation doesn't turn out right? Is there recourse? Is there a way to figure that out or prove that model? Or?
It's a good question. So, I mean, at one level, simulations are always wrong, right? It's an abstraction of reality. When they're useful, they help you make a comparison between two things you might do. So we do a lot of work to validate the inputs that we put into the system. So we work with data partners around the world to have high quality maps, good baseline data about characterizing the behavior on the network, the movement patterns for the population that we're working with. We validate that against third-party data sources. So we have constructed a library of city models and place models that we can run through the system. The decision's not ours to make at the end of it. We're providing a set of tools to help people more quickly, with greater fidelity, assess some of these different alternatives, some of the options. Because a lot of the systems that people are looking at don't exist yet. There isn't that much data from a sort of many thousands of autonomous vehicles running around London. There aren't that many of them there yet, but people do need to think about it and make decisions about what to do.
Are you specialized in certain type of fleets, or is it so only electric, only autonomous, or does it?
Yeah, so we actually started as a company through people having questions about autonomous vehicle fleets. So we simulate all sorts of electric vehicle powertrains and conventional powertrains, because you often need to compare the effect of one versus the other. We started with that niche and then have been expanding that from passenger services into looking at goods and logistics opportunities, and where quite often the asset owner is trying to generate revenue from having a fleet of vehicles. And we're increasingly seeing mixed mode usage where people are sometimes serving passengers, sometimes serving freight and deliveries. And you can interleave that in the simulation. So it hasn't really been possible to assess those things very well before.
Where do you see a biggest opportunity in those, like going forward? In the where do you see a biggest opportunity for you going forward in vehicle simulation or fleet simulation?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there is a very big opportunity in geographic markets in North America for us, which is one of the reasons we're excited to be here. But a lot of the fleet services, a lot of public transit is becoming more flexible. So where people used to use quite expensive fixed route provision, we're now looking at demand responsive services and things like that. So there's a big opportunity there, and there's lots else besides.
All right, thank you, Immense. Next up, we have Roman Aerospace.
Nice. Hi, I'm Tom, CEO of Roman Aerospace, and happy to be here today. And a big thank you to John and our judges and everyone. I'm happy to talk to you about the future of our autonomous skies. So the future is here. The way I know that the future is here is because I'm polite to robots. Specifically, when I talk to Siri, I say thank you. And then I realize I'm talking to a robot that exists in the cloud and connects to millions of people at once through a glass and metal and electromagnetic wave device. And drones are a huge part of this coming future. Over 8,000 new drones were registered with the FAA for commercial purposes every single month in 2020. And drones are doing amazing things and saving lives. In Rwanda, Zipline has delivered over 20,000 doses of blood for life-saving blood transfusions. And these key essential capabilities are on their way to being deployed here in the US. To prevent forest fire, to fight forest fires and inspect power lines here in Southern California, all you have to do is get a truck and 10 people and give every single person their own remote control and drive out to the power lines and find power lines out in the forest that have a road, and then drive your truck 1 mile, have a person hop out. Drive your truck another mile, have another person hop out. Do this for 10 miles and then go ahead and launch your drone. So your drone has to fly from one person to the next. You have to transfer control of the drone from one person to the next so that each drone operator can maintain visual line of sight with the drone. Then, of course, you just have to drive the truck back 10 miles, stop and pick someone up every single mile along the way. And then if you want to deliver medicine from a pharmacy to elderly people that can't leave their house easily, all you have to do is go to a foreign country, maybe Rwanda, set up operations, do thousands of flights for over 5 years, bring your data back to the US, talk to the FAA, and then maybe you can get approved for these autonomous operations. Or you can download the Roman software, perform a few calibration flights, and receive FAA approval for these autonomous operations. Our system compares the calibration flights with modeled simulated flights using models that the FAA knows and trusts to allow FAA approval for these autonomous operations. Our system provides redundant control safety functions and flight tubes and provides redundant visual positioning for safety when buildings and power lines block the GPS for drones and autonomous operations. This software, this platform, will be the baseline to support commercial cargo delivery drones, as well as future emergency response and air taxis. But the best part about this is it doesn't just help our customers, drone fleet managers and drone manufacturers. It alleviates headaches for the FAA, and it empowers local municipalities to take charge of their own green electric futures. It's very interesting. Local municipalities, not the FAA, are in charge of the airspace, the low airspace that drones will use in urban environments. And drone and local municipalities don't want to be dealing with this. So our solutions lets local municipalities easily handle their airspace and gives the FAA and the public peace of mind by approving these drones for autonomous operations using systems that the FAA knows and trusts. So I'd love to talk in more detail about the technical side offline during a detailed conversation, but the basics here are based on collaboration with key partners. We let drones build up experience over time. We let them learn from their own and each other's flight data, and we let them sense and react to their surroundings dynamically. Our system of shared memory and situational awareness gives the drones self-awareness while flying. Instead of driving your car with a car cover on or ice covering the windshield, literally holding your phone and using only the GPS to try to know when to turn, our system lets the drone fly with true self-awareness, as if a route you've driven hundreds of times before. We're set up for payment models on a per drone per month license basis. And we're also examining an API-based per usage model. When the system is fully deployed, various models will work, and it will probably depend on the airspace and the type of application. So all of the markets, all of the estimates put the markets for autonomous robotics and autonomous drones at a great space in the billions of dollars. But what I want to highlight here is the potential revenue from the safe aerial highway subscriptions that we are creating. Based on a bottoms-up estimate, looking at drone capabilities and population densities and what packages can be delivered by which drone, how many miles, we easily get to $20 million in monthly recurring revenue based on rollout to one city. And by the time you roll out to 11 cities in 2030, based on this detailed ground-up estimate, you get to $140 million in recurring monthly revenue. Our go-to-market aligns with our traction revenue and is based around setting up pilots with our beachhead customers, connecting with large future collaborators, and integrating our technology with drone manufacturers. We are currently working with and for the FAA on pilot programs with multiple drone delivery companies, oil pipelines, and electric utility companies, and the state of North Dakota, and potentially the city of Los Angeles. Our main competitors are focused on a different piece of drone deployment and would actually be great distribution channels and partners for our technology. Other firms are focused on that support airspace are typically focused on comparing planned flight routes with restricted airspace and are pushing into fleet management. No other providers offer the type of redundant safety services that we provide, and our technology would be a great value add to their systems. So we have a great team with experience with drones, controls and autonomy, data science, NASA, 3D spatial mapping, and sensor fusion that combines DARPA cave mapping technologies with on-the-ground deployment of drones for safe autonomous flight. And we are happy to invite you guys to join us, join $1 million in committed capital for our $3 million seed round to monetize our pilot programs and fund 24 months of development to bring safety and autonomy to our skies. Thanks.
Questions?
Can you speak a little bit more to the work with the FDA and kind of what the real timeline looks like for autonomy with the drones and delivery?
Absolutely. So we're currently working with the FAA to perform flights and get data and give recommendations for future regulations for safety of drones with potentially shifting payloads and cargo. So we are performing flights and giving them data and recommendations about regulations to enforce safety for the future of cargo delivery drones, while also working on different technologies with our partners at Caltech around this stability to then offer a solution that may become a part of the future of this safety regulatory system. Timeline-wise, some companies are doing demonstration deliveries, and we're talking with them about various pilot programs, but to get this rolled out into a real city in the next 1 to 3 years.
First question, are you afraid of the traffic jam in the air with all the companies, your company and all the others?
So we like the traffic jam because our system learns from that traffic. With all the drones connected to our system, they're sharing flight data with each other and learning and getting better at flight optimization and drone interactions in the airspace. So when there is more traffic, our system will, one, continue to learn and get better and better, and then have an even greater advantage over any competitors that come out in the space because of this kind of shared collective knowledge.
Okay, and one question, you spoke about air taxi. What is your opinion about that, and how are you working on this future that we have seen at the CES in 2020 with Uber and Hyundai?
Yeah, so the base platform that we're creating and the visual redundant positioning systems that will support cargo delivery drones in the near term, those will also provide redundant safety systems and redundant vision-based positioning systems for air taxis. So we're creating a system that will provide multiple new and additional safety redundancies that will help air taxis in the long term, as well as cargo delivery in the near term. Awesome. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Roman. Now we've got as our last presenter of the day, Villanova.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Linus Eriksson. I'm the head of market development at Villanova. Very excited, equally nervous to be here. It's great to get this feeling and be reminded of what it feels like to present in high definition. Where's the clicker? There. So Villanova is today Europe's leading mobility data analytics and policy platform. And we basically enable transparent data sharing between cities, mobility operators, other third parties such as infrastructure companies or similar. And we give these parties the right data as well as tools to manage mobility in a more sustainable, safe and data-driven way. We are riding the waves and banking on a number of different megatrends within the ecosystem, such as new vehicles and services exploding. We have the rise of IoT and the demand for big data analytics, as well as cities becoming more cautious and aware of what is actually going on within the public realms when it comes to these vehicles and companies. And the reason why the company came about was due to all of these new services and vehicles flooding our street, which is of course great, right? Because at least in theory, they provide us with a more sustainable, equitable, efficient and fun way of transporting ourselves and our goods. But they do come with a number of different challenges, which we all are aware of and have seen ourselves. We have, wild parking, there's safety risk, there's just the general lack of knowledge, understanding of how these vehicles are actually flowing and moving within the streets. And that's where Villanova comes in, and together with mobility operators, as well as cities and other third parties, solve those solutions or those problems. And how we solve those problems is that we collect a lot of data. So both data from your shared and micromobility, from carpooling, from mobility on demand, from last mile and logistics vehicles, as well as public transport, but also, but also from the infrastructure side of things. So from EV charging stations, from curbside, from roadways, vehicle count, etc. And then we have put a lot of sweat, blood and tears into getting global data sharing agreements with some of the 50 largest mobility companies on this planet. So your Ubers, your Bolts, your Lime, your Bird, etc. So we're basically able to share their vehicle data, both historic data as well as real-time data, with any third party, such as a city or a consultancy and so on, who would be working on solving some of these challenges that I mentioned before. And today we currently have 3 solutions to help our clients. We have our marketplace, which helps operators to find new city tenders, as well as cities to find the right mobility partners for their needs and requirements. We have our data lake open via APIs, which helps analysts to do sophisticated analysis and create new mobility offerings and services. And then we have our Cityscope, which is a web dashboard, which helps anyone within the ecosystem to do use cases that they're interested in performing. And today we're present in Europe, South America, as well as Australia. And we're just about to sign our first clients in the US. And we are very proud to already have been trusted by some of the most innovative cities and organizations across the globe. And we're working very closely with all of them to develop new functionalities, which will unlock further use cases. And we believe that's the reason why we have achieved a 0% churn since the inception of the company. And here you can see a couple of the use cases that we are performing today with our clients. So regulating mobility, consultancy using it for various strategic and operational projects, public transport operators using it to integrate shared mobility into their service offering, etc. Cautious of time, here you see a few different ones with a number of different data sets. So from shared mobility, from car data, from last mile logistics in Paris. The team comes from a variety of backgrounds and organizations. We have everything from transport planners, we have city regulators, hedge fund managers, data scientists. What brings us all together is that we're really passionate about creating safer, more equitable and controlled sustainable streets. Even though we've achieved quite a bit in the last sort of 2 years, we have just begun and we're looking to build out new offerings with our clients, especially around our self-service, mobility, data marketplace across areas such as insurance, autonomous vehicles, private cars, and so on. Thank you for listening.
We'll share this one. Oh, it works. Thank you for that. Data, big data, analytics, simulation, et cetera, crowded marketplace. What is your competitive? I mean, I appreciate your description of your services. What's your competitive differentiator? What's your superpower?
So I would say that's 2 different things, or maybe 3 different things, I should say. So one is the number of data agreements that we have with a variety of mobility operators and the trust that we have built with them to actually handle and share the data with third parties. Secondly, I would say is our interface, and that we've really focused on demystifying these large data sets for, let's say, local authorities who doesn't have PhDs in data science and so on, and need something which is really easy to use, not only easy, but also time effective. And thirdly is our team, I would say, the competencies that we have. There's people who's been data scientist leads at Google Maps. There's people who's been CTOs at Renault, for example, and so on. So I would say that's our little secret sauce.
Thanks, Linus. I guess a related question. Do you think this is a sort of winner-takes-all market, that the company that assembles the largest, most comprehensive data set is going to be the go-to, or there's going to be a number of competitors and you're going to be kind of constantly chasing each other with new features and capabilities?
Good question. I think that, I mean, of course, the company that will grasp the most, or like collect or sign the most data agreements, or have the largest data sets, will of course have a huge advantage. I think, however, there is room for differentiating yourself within this ecosystem, focusing on, I mean, both focusing and positioning yourself in different ways, whether you're going to go for shared mobility, or whether you're going to go for kind of last mile logistics, or whether you're going to go for autonomous vehicles or private cars or similar. And then also on how you position yourself to what clients, whether you are going to go for having an interface which is focusing on cities or consultancies or, you know, other kind of third parties. I definitely think there's room for a few different players there.
Thanks, and I'll build on that. Your slide with some customers showed both public and private sector. How do you see that balance ending up? Sort of, what's your steady state expectation of that balance for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, they're equally important to us, to be honest, even though the B2B market is, of course, there's a lot more potential there commercially. It's equally important for us to work very closely and to acquire new city clients, because, you know, in the end, they are to some extent telling us what they want, what use cases they need, functionalities, and so on. So yeah, that's my answer to this question, even though there would probably be a larger commercial revenue coming from the B2B segment.
Thank you.
Just one final question. That you've got 50,000 in monthly recurring revenue. How do you price access to your services?
Good question. So generally, it's a very straightforward SaaS monthly license fee. However, it differs a little bit of who pays for that. Sometimes it's actually the mobility operators themselves who kind of want to offer this to the cities as part of their kind of tenders or general like market presence in that geographical area. Sometimes it's the city who contract us and say, we need this kind of solution now, and we don't have an operator who's sponsoring this. Consultancies pay for licensee use or API access.
Great, thanks for the HD presentation.
Thanks, Wes.
Right, so let's give one last round of applause to all of our presenters today in the startups. Really inspiring. So thank you all for joining us, for sharing, what was really a cross section of some pretty amazing new ideas and technology across the mobility space. So Thursday afternoon, at the conclusion of CoMotion LA, we will announce the winner. So please make sure you join us in person, or if you're online, and you will find out who was the winner.
All right, and before we wrap, I want to have one more round of applause for our judges as well, for all the time and consideration they put into this. So please, thank you so much for doing this. While all of you out there were networking and enjoying the song, I watched them hunched over score sheets and thinking very serious about this. So I appreciate your sacrifice. And so with that wraps today's, our first session, a nice gentle amuse-bouche to bring you into this year's CoMotion. Only a couple of hours getting you warmed up. Tomorrow, we start bright and early at 8:45 a.m. We're gonna have a full day of panels and presentations here across the greater campus of the Japanese American National Museum. It's been a pleasure to welcome you. And yes, thank you all so much for coming. Have a wonderful afternoon and evening. Good night.